Everyone, and welcome to our Channel Features webcast, Power Up Sales in the Channel with Granite Edgeboot, sponsored by Granite Telecommunications. If you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help widget on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. If at any time you're having audio difficulties or issues with advancing of the slides, please hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. Today's web seminar is being recorded and will be available on demand for 12 months starting tomorrow. You'll receive an email when it is ready. Please feel free to submit any questions you may have for our speaker today in the Q&A widget on your screen. Our speaker today is Brian O'Connor, VP of Solutions Engineering at Granite Telecommunications. Now with that, the floor is yours, Brian.
Great, thanks for that amazing intro. So today we're going to talk about a new product that Granite has launched just about 4 months ago that we think is a game changer and can help you boost your boost your ability to add more value to your customers. So what we're going to talk about today, so just get my screen share started there. So first, why are we here today? We will answer the biggest challenge our customers face with access repair. This product that we developed called edgeboot will help you gain knowledge into the customer's network that will allow you to upsell other value-added services. And ultimately, we'll position edgeboot for a quick sale and quick time to revenue. This is a product that we believe you can sell and we can ship and bill within 1 week. So what is edgeboot? And why did we build it? First of all, we did the math. A customer called us one day and said, hey, how come I can't reboot my broadband modem whenever I want? We said, hey, that's a great question. So we went out to all our underlying carriers, and Granite has about 150 different carriers that we do business with, and we aggregate them across the country for our customers, and said, do you have a portal that we can log into and initiate a reboot for our customers? And they said, no, all but one. One said yes. And we said, okay, great. Does the circuit have to be up? And they said, of course the circuit has to be up. Otherwise, we can't access the site. So we said, okay, there is no answer from a carrier perspective on the market. So then we went out and said, let's go buy something and give it to this customer that will do the job for them. And we found, through a lot of research, there really wasn't something that we could deploy and have out-of-band access to and not be intrusive to the customer's network. So then we said, is this a real problem? And about 1.5 years ago, we onboarded a new ticketing system here at Granite, and it allowed us to do resolution codes on all of our trouble tickets. We found that 62% of the time, when there is an issue with an access circuit, you simply turn it off and you turn it back on, and that resolves the issue. And I always pause there when I'm talking to customers. I say, do you agree with that? And almost all customers say, absolutely, I do agree with that. And the source of that data on our side was 250,000 trouble tickets over 6 months' time. So we said, okay, there is nothing on the marketplace. This is a real problem. Let's go build a solution for it. So what is edgeboot? It's a smart PDU with built-in out-of-band access and an onboard AI engine to interpret data and take immediate action without manual intervention. So first and foremost, we have our single port unit, and it has a console out-of-band access. It has obviously built-in LTE. So we don't have to be intrusive to the customer network. We don't have to penetrate their firewall to initiate that reboot. It also has 2 outbound Ethernet ports, a GPIO. And the reason for the GPIO is one of the first customers we spoke to said, I have walk-in refrigerators, and I would love to monitor the temperature in there and get an alert when, hey, the refrigeration unit has gone past 60 degrees. That means if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, if I don't know that, by the time I come in the morning to open up the restaurant, all that food is gone. However, at 2 a.m. in the morning, if I got an alert that said, hey, there's a problem, I could get somebody out of bed, go out to the site, and get the food out of that refrigerator. So that's one of the reasons that we built it as well. First and foremost, single broadband circuit. That was the use case. One of the first customers we spoke to said, well, that's great, but what about my cache wraps? What about my servers? What about my routers, switches, SD-WAN appliances? We said, hey, great question. So with that, we wanted to make an expandable device that was low cost. So we came up with this 4-port, we call it the edgeboot plus. It's an add-on to the edgeboot, and it clicks in very easily in the field, so a customer can hot connect this device. And it's actually connected via a very simple DB9 connection. You can have up to 2 add-on units for a total of 9 ports. So that's a little bit about the physical architecture. Also embedded in the box is a small little battery. So if the site were to lose power, it will go ahead and initiate a call out and say, my input power is going offline. So when we get that alert, we don't have to call the site to troubleshoot. We can say, hey, the site has lost power. So you're going to get that trouble ticket, but you're going to be able to take a hypothesis that you do not have to do any troubleshooting with the carrier. There's probably an on-site issue. So why edgeboot, right? It's great that we know that there's a use case, but our customer's going to really want it. And what we found in talking to customers prior to putting all the R&D and actually building up the supply chain, obviously we asked what customers thought. First and foremost, the worst case scenario for a customer is they do not have people on site that are capable, willing, or it could even be an unmanned location. In those 3 scenarios, to do the tier 1 troubleshooting that is necessary to open up a trouble ticket with a carrier, you have to dispatch a technician. And that can be very expensive, especially if it's a priority 1 dispatch. It goes offline in the morning, you need someone there today, that can be very expensive. We heard ranges from $300 to $500 from those customers. The best case scenario is you do get somebody on site to stop supporting their customer that's in the location, go into the back room, find that appliance that needs to be rebooted, initiate the reboot, and then resolve the issue, or it doesn't resolve the issue. So you spent all that time trying to get that person to resolve the issue just to find out, okay, now it's time to call the carrier. And with that, you might do that troubleshooting at 10 o'clock in the morning. Our idea is why not do that troubleshooting automatically at 2 a.m. when the site actually went offline? Why don't we power cycle the reboot, the modem? Why don't we confirm that there's power at location? And why don't we open up that trouble ticket with the underlying carrier? So when the end user comes in the morning, yes, they're down, but the trouble ticket's already opened, and we have a first dispatch of the day between 8 and 12 to get it resolved. Next is staffing costs. So large footprint of customers, large footprint customers that have many locations, they have many people on staff that just do this tier 1 troubleshooting. And this could be a person that wants to build applications, wants to build new things to support the business, but they're chasing trouble tickets with circuits. We want to give them back the time to build new things to support their business versus doing break fix. We talked about decreased MTTR. So working with on-site personnel to do that troubleshooting that many carriers will not dispatch until it is completed, takes a lot of time. And again, if the location is not open, you have to wait until the morning to do it. So again, off-peak issues, doing that troubleshooting in the middle of the night, automatically, no employee is doing any work. So we talked a little bit about human intervention in our trouble tickets. We don't want that. It completes all the required troubleshooting like we mentioned. The other thing is if it is with Granite, the circuits themselves. We will directly open that ticket with the carrier automatically. No human being at the site, no human being at the customer's help desk, no human being at Granite touches that ticket. It goes in via API into the carrier's ticketing system with all the information that we've done our tier 1 troubleshooting, and then comes back with a dispatch time. So the first thing you know is I'm down, but also we've done all the tier 1 troubleshooting and a technician is coming, and this is when they're coming. We want to give customers a shorter time to repair. With more than half of tickets being resolved in minutes, not hours or days, avoiding on-site confusion, operational impact, or tech dispatches, right? When a technician comes on site, still somebody has to help them. Somebody has to show them where to go. So it's still impactful, even if it's a technician doing the work. Every single thing we do is logged with tickets, timestamps, and most importantly, why the reboot happened. The other thing we do is we have a back-off timer within the network. So if we reboot an appliance, the customer can decide how often they would want that to happen. For example, if the broadband modem were to go offline and we reboot it, do we want to reboot it 10 minutes later if it goes offline? Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe if that happens twice, you want to stop and get manual intervention by a human being to actually troubleshoot it at a higher level. We have that as well. The goal, improve the network experience and increase the uptime of sites. So what are the 3 outcomes that we're going to see? Well, 62% of the time, the site will be restored. We will open up a ticket, we will close that ticket, and we'll track that historically. For example, if a site has outages every 3 days over a month, we would escalate that site up to a level 2 technician to take a look at. The site doesn't restore, again, we will dispatch that technician a lot more quickly. So 38% of the time when it doesn't restore, we're still ahead of the game in getting it restored. And then we talked, of course, about the back-off timer. We want to ensure that we are not putting things in a boot loop, right? So another thing that we looked at prior to making the product is how much time do we spend here at Granite with 300,000 circuits in the field? We spent 21,067 hours in a given quarter working with our customers with broadband circuits in our NOC. We have a few hundred people that come to work every day and do this job. As you look to the right, or the left on your screen, I should say, SD-WAN, it's in the DMARC. Network routers are in the DMARC. DIA routers, they're in the DMARC. Granite grid circuits are in malls and they're in the DMARC. All of these hours that are spent supporting devices that are in a customer's DMARC, and 62% of the time, we could have fixed it if we had a device on site. So let's talk about the power. What happens when the power goes out in the building? Again, we have a little battery in there. You can see it's protected for shipping. We pull that when it's on location. It'll send a dying gasp that says, I am losing power. And then we have to open that ticket. Again, we know where it needs to go. Common question we always get is there surge protection? Absolutely. In fact, the compute within the device and the power ports are completely different motherboards. So if the compute were to die, all of the power ports default to closed. So power will go through them and it'll act just like a surge protector. It's also paused right here and say, this is a product that is fully managed. If it were to break, Granite will replace it. We will send a technician and get it replaced the next day. Common question we get, can I have power to a port turned off permanently? Absolutely. We have a per port solution. So if the customer only wants 3 ports, Well, for us, that's our 1-port unit with our 4-port add-on plugged in for a total of 5 ports. But those 2 ports can be off, so the customer doesn't have to worry about somebody plugging in to charge their cell phone or plugging in a rogue device into the power grid. So what kind of alerting happens when a power issue is noticed? We will generate a ticket on our end and tell you that there might be an outage related to power. The other thing we monitor is power output in a port. For example, if you have a Cisco router plugged into the port and you have told us it's a Cisco router, we notice the power draw, we know it's a Cisco router, and all of a sudden it physically gets unplugged and something else is now plugged in, such as a vacuum cleaner or a cell phone charger. We can alert you to say, hey, there's a rogue device in your power grid right now. And then the customer's help desk can go deal with that. So what kind of questions are we asking to our customers when we talk to them? First, how do you deal with your outages today? What is the process to repair an issue? Is that an outsourced process? Is it in-house? Especially if it's in-house, what are the duties of that person or persons that you would like to get them back to doing? And take this remedial work away from them. So what's the impact to your day? Personally, if we're talking to the person that actually does the work, or if we're talking to C-levels or financial folks or IT folks, what's it mean for your company? How many people are doing this every single day? Some customers will tell us, we don't allow our people to even power cycle anything. So we have to do a technician dispatch. It's a locked rack, for example. And how do you track the cost for these outages? Obviously, edgeboot has a cost to it, but we really believe it's an offset of truck rolls, people, and lost revenue. We want to focus on performance when we're talking to customers. What visibility do you have to monitor application performance today? Where do your most critical applications sit? We tell our folks when they're talking to customers, or even if they have circuits with us today, if their biggest spike in traffic is between 10 and 2 a.m., so 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., we might think, hey, that customer's doing nightly backups. That means a lot of their compute is still on-prem. So great thing to ask is, hey, you're on-prem today. Do you have plans to move to the cloud in the future? And just by that question, you can unlock a bunch of different opportunities. It can be direct connects, software as a service, more uptime from a circuit perspective, right? If they just have a singular circuit today, if they're going to the cloud, they're probably going to want that secondary circuit, maybe even tertiary, to make sure that their site is up and running at all times. Okay. Who you talk to matters, right? First and foremost, if you're talking to a day-to-day contact, they want their time back, and they do not want to troubleshoot these things. Directors, they want insight into what's going on. They want their team to be more efficient and less reactive to outages. They want to quantify the value of the product here. C-level, VP level, they want to ensure the network is up and running. They don't necessarily want to replace FTEs or full-time employees, but they would like the resources they have to do more important things. Nobody wants people sitting on hold with carriers and power cycling modems. They don't want that to happen. So if there's a cost benefit to it, we're getting great feedback there. Security first. We understand that plugging into a customer's network and having power access remotely is scary. So what do? We utilize secure boot. Everything is an encrypted kernel in a root file system. All the data is encrypted at rest. We utilize private LTE, so private APNs So cellular MPLS, basically. So when the traffic leaves the site, it's going into the private network of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and handing off to us via our private NNIs that we already have up and running with them. So these are not publicly accessible from the web. Where do we physically deploy? We want to deploy inside the vendor DMZ or the vendor VLAN with zero trust access to any protected or unprotected endpoints, only specifically called out in the AI algorithm. On the side of the screen here, you see a couple of scenarios. One, we can plug directly into the broadband modem, and honestly, that was our first use case we were thinking of. But as we talked to customers and they wanted us to monitor more appliances, we found ourselves plugging into their switch. And that's the first one we did. It was a Meraki switch. The customer put us right in their vendor VLAN. And this was done over a year ago, and everything worked. So we do find when we're talking to customers that are very security conscious, we tell them we're going to be in the vendor VLAN, just like a lot of their other vendors, and that alleviates their concern. So how are we monitoring? We monitor multiple endpoints, IP addresses, URLs, and API calls. And if certain conditions are met, the device will initiate a reboot or just alert out to us based on how we have that port configured. It's very important to note everything is automatic. But at the same time, some customers are concerned about that. And we actually recommend that for the first week or two when you have it out there, put it in manual mode. Gather data before you actually put it into AI mode. And we'll do a portal demo in a little bit where I'll show you all the different specific things you can call out. Does the internet need to be hard down before a reboot? Absolutely not. We are monitoring packet loss and latency and our ability to hit a bunch of endpoints. And if certain conditions are met, percentage-wise, we will go ahead and initiate that reboot. So a couple of things, just some FAQs that we get. If Granite does not own the circuit, do we call the carrier? Again, we're delivering this as a fully managed service, but we are a wholesaler. So if the customer is in contract, that's 100% okay. They can still buy this product. So if you're working with somebody, they signed up a long time ago with AT&T or Verizon, and even you haven't maybe done any business with them before, this is a nice way in because you can provide value. And when the trouble ticket happens, we're going to do all the tier 1 troubleshooting. We're going to confirm the circuit ID, confirm power location. We're going to give all that information to the customer via an email or an SMS or ticketing integration with something like ServiceNow, which we call here on the slide. So they have all the information they need to then open up that ticket with their underlying carrier. So can customers have multiple types of logins for different level employees? Absolutely. We can have read, write, and admin. And also for folks in the agent community that might have multiple customers, we can give you a unique login. So when you log in, you can actually see all of your customers and how many they have deployed via one login. So how quickly are we alerted when there's a reboot? It's instant in the portal. It's about 5 minutes for email. Again, for ticketing, we want to integrate with our customers. We think it makes it easier for them to do business with us, and we think it makes it easier for us to do business with them. I think it's a great value add that we do here at Granite. We do not charge for that. It's part of the service offering. Customer builds their half of the bridge from their ticketing system. We build our half. Everything is API capable, and it adds a lot of value in the day-to-day operations. So again, can we see all my customers via one portal? Absolutely. So a special login, I'll show you again when we do the demo in a moment, what it'll look like when you log in. So some implementation FAQs. What if there is poor cellular signal? That's fine. At the end of the day, the device itself is making the decision to reboot based on commands it's already been given in the past. So when we roll out an update, I don't care if it takes 20 minutes to get to the box or 2 hours, as long as it gets there. So it can be slow. If the box does a reboot and it has to tell us that that happened, and it takes 10 minutes instead of 5, that's okay. Again, the LTE is there to give data based on commands that are already on it. So it does not have to be great. Another thing is, will it work if it has no signal? Absolutely. If you were to deploy the device, we could put a first-time configuration on it, and it will work with that configuration until you update it at any point. So that can be over LTE. Obviously, there are Ethernet ports on the box as well. So if the customer is willing, we can log in via those Ethernet ports and provide the updates on it. But if they're not willing, again, it'll just work. We do have customers that have network components, small local area networks that are not accessible via the WAN, that see value in this, just so they can monitor the internal IP addresses and initiate reboots when necessary. Does it interfere with inbound traffic? No. All we're doing with our box is seeing if other endpoints are there. We're not trying to access them. We're not utilizing the customer's network to get into our box. So very limited firewall changes, if any. Also, if the customer said, absolutely not, you're not plugging into my network from an Ethernet perspective, but I love the idea of it, that's okay. They can go into manual mode and they can get alerts from their devices. They can log into this. Again, it does have that console access, has the port, the power ports, and they can make adjustments from via the console port or initiate the reboot via the power port. All right, so let's dive into a quick 5-minute demo of the product. Well, first, this is what you would see as a trusted partner of your customers. When you log in, you'll have all of your individual customers, and then you can navigate into them. When your customer logs in, this is what they're going to see. They'll have a dashboard. At the top, we have the ability to initiate a manual reboot. We have the ability to schedule maintenance. That was one of the big things that we got day one is I would love to just power cycle my broadband modems once every 3 months or once a month, every Sunday at 2 a.m. You can schedule that here. You can also, and we're going to dig into this in a second, configure profiles. Not every site is built the same. There's tier 1 locations, tier 2, tier 3, acquisitions, right? So we can develop profiles. So when the customer adds a new location or acquires a new location, we can ship out a box, 0 touch. They add in the serial number. When it gets on site, it'll pull down the profile of that we've already preset, and the customer's good to go. So as we scroll down here, we have our total amount of edgeboot devices deployed. Are they online or offline? What's the cause of the reboot? We have connectivity, latency, CPU utilization. Over here, the total amount of reboots within the network. And we're looking at 15 devices here, obviously a lot of demo devices. As you scroll down, you'll see all of your devices. Status, green, they're online, red, they're offline, pretty basic stuff. The device name, the location, the serial number, the last time it rebooted, and the profile that is running on that device. As you see up here, you can hit search. We have a search field, and you'll see over here on the top right, it's blinking right now. That means that since the last time I logged in, there has been something has happened within the organization. So we can click there. It's going to give us all the device events. And we can see here that in the last 2 minutes, a device has gone offline. At 1:55 p.m. Eastern, Ryan, who works here in Quincy initiated a reboot on one of his devices. So it's going to show you what kind of reboot it was, manual or automatic. It's going to tell you who did it if it's manual, and you'll get that timestamp, and you can export that at any time. Administrative events. So if anybody on the network is making changes to a device, that's going to be called out here. Any open trouble tickets, if there were to be any, would show right here. At the top right, you can go into preferences. This is where we can customize the alerting that the end user is going to get based on events in the network. For example, this one's powerful here. The connected device is offline. Many customers are saying, I don't want it to automatically reboot, but I want to get that alert that there's a problem. This will give them that alert, and then they can log in and via the console or via the power, initiate a reboot to the device it's connected to. We have administrative notifications as well. And then we also have super admins. So they'll get alerts when any of these kind of different events happen. These are all customizable. We do sprints every 2 weeks, adding new features into this portal. And the idea is this is a subscription model. So when you sign up, you get the benefits of all the additional product enhancements every 2 weeks, something new, and a wish list that the customers give us. It's all based on their feedback. Everything within this portal, everything within the product is based on customer feedback other than the first statement. We want to turn something off and turn it back on and utilize LT to do it. Everything since then, it's all customer feedback. Right. So we can scroll over here to my devices. Let's go ahead and check one out. All right. So here is my demo device, and it has 3 ports configured within the network. We'll go ahead and click into port 1, and this is where you customize how you want the AI to work. So we have critical, high, medium, and low priority applications that we've identified. Just for example, right? Some customers are going to have different applications, right? So we have Zoom.com as a critical application in this scenario. A high priority is Sonos, because in our demo environment, we're thinking, hey, it's a location where they want the music always going. Then low priority, they don't need people shopping. So Amazon, Yahoo.com, yeah, those are low priority applications. What's powerful over here is then we have the configurations. So let's go ahead and lock the profile. And we can edit these here. So we can add in an endpoint. We can do an IP address. We can do plug in the IP. We can do ICMP if we'd like. We can set that as a low priority. We'll add that endpoint in, and there it is as an endpoint. Over here, we can set up a configuration scenario. So I would like the device to initiate a reboot. We're working on port 1 here only right now, when all or some of, and if you hit some, what percentage of low, critical, and high priority applications, so 30% of low, critical, and high are unreachable for 7 minutes. And then you can initiate a back-off timer for however long you'd like, and add that configuration in. So this device is monitoring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 endpoints. Some of them are on the local area network, and some of them are on the WAN, and it's operating with 6 different device configurations. And this is in AI mode. It is going to initiate reboots if some of these parameters or all these parameters are met. I scroll down here. We have the switch, and that's running a whole different configuration. And you see we have these profiles here. So I can change out the configuration on a port with a simple selection, and I am good to go. Hit save, it's going to operate in that scenario. all your events. Sorry, we already talked about the events being logged here. These are all your profiles that you have within the network. They'll show here. And going back over here, we're going to move on a little bit to pricing. So we are delivering this as a fully managed service. $34.95 a month gets you advanced monitoring capabilities, packet loss, latency, etc. Is the circuit up? Is it down? Each individual port that you add is $5.95. And if you would like a professional install, we have a flat rate nationwide, $199. However, we are encouraging a self-install. We actually thought we were going to do a lot more professional installs than we have done thus far. A lot of customers, even if they're saying, I want to make it easier for my staff, are actually electing to do self-installs. We do customized white papers when they open the box, exactly how to plug it in based on the customer's network. So for the $34.95, you get the LTE. It's built in. You do not pay for a usage plan. You get the 2 Ethernet ports to plug into 2 downstream network devices. Again, if you plug into a switch, we can monitor a lot of different endpoints. The GPIO, the out-of-band console access, the small battery backup. Again, everything delivered as a managed service, and no charges if the box dies. We ship out a new one, we replace it, and on you go. So with that said, we do have a full compensation plan already set up. If you can reach out to your channel manager today for compensation information, and your feedback on the pricing is requested. At $5.95 a month, for example, on the edgeboot plus ports, we think today that that might be a little low. So if a customer has 9 devices and they're monitoring all 9 devices, again, we're getting network statistics on each individual device, whatever it's capable of reporting on, we're pulling all that into a central repository and then taking AI action on all of them. We think that's extremely powerful. So if you think that pricing should be more, you tell us and give us your feedback. So with that said, I'll pause here and hand it back over for some Q&A.
Okay, great. We do have a few questions, but a reminder to our audience, feel free to submit any other questions you may have into the Q&A widget on your screen. So let's get started with our first question. Can I connect 220 volt equipment to edgeboot? Brian, you may be muted.
I wasn't muted, I apologize. Great question. So today it is 220 volt inbound, but the outbound ports are fused to 180 to 120 volts on the output. However, we are looking at building a international version, which would have more power output on the power ports.
Okay, great. Next question, what types of devices is the Granite edgeboot compatible with? And second part to that, what are the limitations on current consumption of connected devices?
Yeah, that's a great question. We built this device for customer demarcs, which is routers, switches, paging systems, DVRs. It is not built to be a data center PDU replacement. We are not marketing this product as such. Even with big beefy servers, we might say, hey, only plug one into an expansion port, for example. So if you were to have 2 large servers on location, we might say, hey, we're going to give you the 9 ports all in, and you're going to input 1 server into each.
Okay, great. Next question, you may have covered this in some fashion. How many devices can be controlled by a single edgeboot unit?
Great. Yep. So that's 1 port for this hockey puck size unit, we call it, and then 4 ports for each add-on. There's a maximum of 2 add-ons per singular box. So that would be 9 ports in total. When it is in a 9-port configuration, that is a rack mount configuration.
Okay. And what kind of network connectivity does edgeboot support?
So for today, network connectivity is LTE and Ethernet. The current iteration does not have an SFP port, so we would need to plug into an Ethernet port on the customer's network. The next iteration that we do will have SFP ports. Also, I'd also like to add, if you have a customer that would want to move towards something in the future and the physical architecture of the box changes and they need that, that's okay. We can just replace it. It's not an ETF. We'll just take this box back in, give them the new box that has the feature that they need. But we have built the box so that the compute of it is future-proof. The chip in the box is rated to till 2032 right now.
Okay, great. It looks like we have a question for some additional clarification. Can you elaborate on your example with the refrigeration monitoring?
Yeah, absolutely. We are not saying you're going to plug in a walk-in refrigeration unit into this, because obviously it's not the correct kind of port. But with the GPIO, we can have a thermometer at the end of it and actually monitor the temperature within the refrigeration unit. So for example, a refrigerator, you expect a certain temperature. If it goes over that, you're going to want to alert. So we will get an alert that the temperature in the GPIO port is now seeing something at 75 degrees. For example, we know that's really bad from a refrigeration unit perspective. We're also talking to customers that are in the healthcare industry and they have like blood banks, they have medicine in locations, and they want to get alerts if there's a problem, so they can put somebody on site to get everything out of that unit, get the refrigeration technicians on site, get it resolved quickly. Because if it's offline for more than an hour or two, whatever is in that has to be thrown out. So it's proactive environmental management and monitoring as well.
Okay, great.
Question.
All right. One last question here that I'm seeing in the Q&A. What competitive products exist for edgeboot, and how does edgeboot compare? Great.
So we believe edgeboot is a culmination of a lot of different things, and that is, it has the ability to reboot things. There's products that do that. It has built-in LTE. There are products that have that. It's an out-of-band console server. There are products that do that. It's an AI engine. There are AI engines out there. What we're saying is this is all those different things wrapped up into one, delivered in a small package. A competition would be something like a watt box, right? That's a box that's on site. It doesn't have built-in LTE or anything like that, but it does give you the ability to remotely reboot something. It does not have the console ports, but that would probably be something that I'd compare this to the most. Good question.
All right, great. Well, that does look like all of the questions we have submitted right now. Were there any parting thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience today?
No, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time today. Again, if you have any questions, we're happy to schedule a more in-depth demo with you and your customers. We have a full team of demo engineers that are staffed and ready to go. And we can do that same day. So if you are interested right now, we could get you a demo this afternoon. Again, I really want to thank everybody for taking the time. I know time is important, so really, really appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Before we let everyone go, we'd like to thank Granite Telecommunications for sponsoring today's event, as well as to you, Brian, for joining us on this informative discussion. As a reminder to the audience, this web seminar will be available on demand starting tomorrow, so please feel free to come back and review. Have a great day, and thank you again for attending.